Hello, my fellow Ripplers. This is Chris Miles, your cash flow expert and anti-financial advisor. Hey, welcome to our show, a show that's for you and about you. Those of you that work so hard for your money and you're not ready for your money to start working harder for you now. You want that freedom. You want that cash flow. You want that prosperity today, not 30 or 40 million years from now, but right now, so you can live that life that you love, doing what you love with those that you love. But guys, so much more than creating the life of ease and comfort. It's about creating a ripple effect through the lives of others, through your family and generations beyond you, as well as through your community and across the planet. And guys, thank you so much for allowing me to create that ripple effect through you. Thank you for being a part of this movement. Thank you for sharing and binging and applying the things that you learn on this show, because that is where freedom really comes from. It comes from actually doing and walking the walk and not just talking the talk. So guys, thank you so much for tuning in. As a reminder, check out our website, moneyripples.com. You got great blogs on there. And of course, subscribe to our YouTube channel. You know, the Chris Miles with Money Ripples. We have that in the show notes as well. You can check that out. So guys, today I have some good news for you and some bad news. The good news is if you succeed, great job, you succeeded. The bad news is if it happens, that's also on you. The truth is that your results are your own dang fault. It's your fault. Now I get this, that there's things outside of your control, but the truth is that regardless of what comes into your life, you have the power to make a change. You have the ability to do that. And it doesn't just require a free country to do that, although that helps. But guys, I'm telling you that you have the power within you. You have the power within your mind to really create the results that you want in your life. So if you fail, good job, that's on you. If you succeed, great job, that's also on you. And that is the liberating part. That is how there's freedom, because you do have control over a lot of the situations in your life. Even if you can't control all of the outside influences, which I understand. I'll tell you some stories here in a bit. The truth is that you have the ability to respond accordingly, to be able to choose differently. And guys, it's driving me nuts because there's this culture, even this counterculture out there, right? This culture of becoming a victim and in fact, it's becoming permanent, not just in certain groups, like the ones you hear on social media or the ones that you hear all across the news about how they feel that their race or their background is the reason why they're persecuted or the reason why they're, less than what they should be. Guys, this is happening to everybody. This is becoming a cultural thing across all races, all religions, all sexual preferences, everything. This is happening to everyone because right now it's actually okay. Many people are making it okay to be a victim, to say, hey, it's not my fault. Or, hey, this is what's going on in the world. Like, I don't have control. It's not like I can do anything about it. I can't control the government. I can't control when my spouse does. It's their fault. I can't control what my kids do. It's their fault. It's everybody else's fault but yours. And the truth is, guys, that it actually is your fault. Yes, they've got their own things they're doing, right? They make their own choices. You can't control that, but you can control what's happening to you. And this and you might think, well, Chris, is this just a life lesson? Well, heck yeah, it's a life lesson, because if you want financial freedom, how can you have freedom if you feel like everything's out of your control? By the way, if you throw money in the stock market, is that out of your control? Yes. But the fact is you don't have to keep it there. I was talking to somebody today where they're saying, yeah, my husband is really, really bought on this 401k thing. And he really doesn't want to give money to other people, especially to individuals that might take it because he works so hard for that money. Why give people that money that they might just steal it or lose it? And I told her, I said, that's completely valid point. Why give your money to somebody that you might lose or whatever, right? Or run off with that money. But here's the thing. I said, he's still putting money in that 401k, nearly max funding it every year. He's giving his money to somebody else for somebody else's control, where the government makes all the rules and they can change the rules whenever they want. He's in a partnership where he has no say in the matter. The only thing say he has is how much money he throws in, but no say of how much he can take out and when. He has no say on how he's able to access his own money or really how to invest it. Because the truth is, even when you try to pick your own funds, you still don't invest it. You still don't control where it's being invested. They pick everything. You're just trusting them. I said, he's already doing that. He's already turning over all of his cash to somebody else, to be the victim. Now, if it does great, he thinks he's brilliant, right? And I'm just saying this in general. I'm not saying this is him specifically, but people in general, when the market goes up, they think they're brilliant. When it goes down, it's not their fault. No, it's the financial advisor's fault. No, it's the market's fault. It's the politics. It's everybody else's fault. But when it goes up, do you say, I had nothing to do with that? I'm purely lucky. In fact, I did nothing. All I did was throw money in and it made some money. Yeah, that's the truth, right? You have no control in your life there. If you want freedom, you must have control. That control starts by taking personal accountability, accepting responsibility for it. I'll tell you, the biggest fights my wife and I have had is when I'm not honest with myself, right? When, like, for example, there's been times where I'll get defensive or I'll say, well, you hurt my feelings. You did this to me, right? And social media and everything else, you see this happening all the time. People are like, yeah, well, this happened, or you did this. And people are taking offense to everything. Well, when I took offense, the thing that ticks her off is she's like, Chris, you took offense to something that wasn't supposed to be offensive. That's your fault, Chris, not mine, yours. You chose to be offended, which is truth. Anytime you guys are offended, that's your choice. And now it might be an offensive type of statement, but again, you choose how you respond. Do you take offense or do you laugh and say, well, that's ridiculous? By the way, I've noticed in my life, the things that offend me the most are usually the things that actually have some truth to it. Because if it's ridiculous, like if somebody says, I can't remember what somebody had said recently. I remember I did a podcast because somebody sent me some hate email anonymously a few years ago. I don't get hate mail nearly enough. I guess I'm not ruffling enough feathers, but like they accused me of stuff that wasn't even close to truth. And I just laughed. That's why I did a show on it. Now, some of the things ticked me off a little bit, which is also why I did a show on it, right? But and it wasn't because it wasn't true. It's just because it was too close to home a little bit, right? But and they were trying to offend my character. But the truth is, they didn't really know who I was. They were pretending to know who I was. And the truth is, like, we get offended by things. We take fault for things. We get offended. And the truth is, that's not the case. And if you want financial freedom, you must change this. This has to switch in your brain. You cannot be blaming everybody else for your life. You have to accept responsibility that your life is yours and yours alone to control, not your spouses, not your children, not your financial advisors or whoever you listen to, or the stock market or whatever. It has nothing to do with that. It's all about you. You've got to choose that. Let me dig down a little bit here, right? So, first off, like, I get life circumstances. If you've heard my story, I've been through hard times. Heck, the last recession, I went over $1 million in debt. A lot of that stuff wasn't my fault, but some of it was. Some of it was based on choices. There were results of choices that I had made, right? When the real estate market tanked, I couldn't control that. But the fact is that when I went into real estate, gambling on appreciation versus trying to focus on cash flow, yeah, that was my fault. The reason I was losing was because I made dumb choices. I wasn't focused on the right things. The business I went into, I cut off my streams of income because I told the partner, yes, I'm all in. I'm all into your mission. Yes, yes. But the truth is that I should have kept those streams of income and said, no, if I'm going to live what I preach, shouldn't I be doing this stuff too? So no, I'm not going to cut off these streams of income. I'm going to keep them. And heck, we're not just going to focus on real estate investors. We're going to start broadening our company, broadening our marketing and things like that. All of these things were within my control, right? Now, again, I couldn't control outside market circumstances, but I could control how things worked. The fact is, when I went reclusive, I started becoming antisocial because I didn't want to spread my scarcity on other people. Have you ever done that where you're like, ugh, like I feel like I'm struggling right now. I don't want to spread it or depress people or bring them down. So I'm just going to do this. I'm going to suffer in silence. Guys, that was the wrong thing to do. That made me suffer more financially. The truth is that I should have right from the get-go got out and started serving people. This was the difference of what I did when I went through a divorce. That divorce, by the way, emotionally was harder on me than even losing over $1 million. It was much harder. Now, the $1 million thing, that took it was about 2 years before I started to really pull out of that and feel like now I was leaving that situation. Now I was on the much higher on the upswing versus kind of rolling around on the bottom, right, in the pit. With my divorce, it was much different because although emotionally it was harder, the thing is, I realized from what I learned back then, I had more control than I gave myself credit. And so after I went through my little victim experience, because I did go through a victim moment, right? Like, especially when, things were being said, rumors spread, I was mad. I was bitter, and really hurt. I mean, that's really where all the madness and bitterness came, was I was just hurt. And what happened is I said, you know what? Enough's enough. Like, I need to start answering emails. I actually had left my inbox blowing up because I didn't want to look at emails. So I started answering emails. I started fulfilling on commitments. I started focusing instead on the clients I wanted to attract, because I had clients that were draining me at that time. I said, it's not just, things from my marriage that was draining. I had clients that were draining, not all of them, but there were some. What do I need to do? Where do I need to focus? And I put my focus on what I wanted versus what I was trying to avoid. I started focusing on what I had power to control and create versus becoming a victim to something that wasn't a thing I should have been a victim of anyways. And there was the thing. Things turn around quickly. Like that little emotion, the little emotional and even a little financial dip that I had was just a matter of a few months. And then I started pulling right out of it within a 6-month period of time, pulling out of it. And guys, about a year or so later, well, year and a half later, I was able to retire. And that right there, guys, is the key, is that I was able to flip that switch and start taking control and ownership of my own crap. I'll give you another example. I had a client recently who had reached out and said, Chris, we're just not feeling like we should really do anything with our money. Like, we're feeling like we just don't want to use it to buy real estate or do this. I said, okay, well, then don't. If you feel like you should sit on it. And they're like, Chris, can you refund us the money, that we paid you? I'm like, why would I do that? Like, I have no problem refunding money to people if I thought, hey, you know what, I can't fund the money. But here's the thing. We never take on clients unless we know we can at least double the results that they pay us, right? Same thing with them. And the truth is, I end up finding more than I expected in their situation. So I said, no, absolutely not. Like, you already have the information, you have the resources. I gave you all the resources you need to more than double what you paid me. In fact, it was actually going to be closer to about triple to quadruple what they paid me. I said, no, like, you can just take the information, use it whenever you want. Do you go to college and then change your major and say, oh, can you give me money back for the classes I really didn't need? No. Even if you change your mind and take a different career path like I did, I didn't go back to my university and say, hey, I'd like to have that 4 years of money I paid you back because I decided to become a financial advisor instead of going to sociology and psychology, right? That's ridiculous. But the thing is, like, they didn't want to take responsibility for their own results. I'm like, you got to take responsibility. I took responsibility for what I taught you. You take your own responsibility. And then the thing that ticked me off wasn't the fact that they asked for whatever reason. The fact is that they came to the table thinking that somehow they weren't in control, but they were in full control of their destiny. And they're like, well, Chris, it sounds like you expect us to like, you only want to honor that commitment if we do what you ask. I'm like, yeah. Like, when I say give a good full faith effort, you give a good full faith effort. You don't just say, I don't feel like it. That doesn't work. Now, contrast that with today. Like, today I talked to somebody who is looking to hire us, right? And she even reached out. She's like, I've been listening to your podcast. She's probably listening right now. In fact, maybe her and her husband are listening to this now, which would be perfect for them. But she reached out and she said, Chris, here's our situation. And the great thing is, they've been trying to pay off their mortgage, right? They've been aggressively paying off. They're about 10 years away from paying it off. They've been aggressively funding their 401k and saved up a nice nest egg for being in their mid 40s. Here's the thing. Now, just like if you heard that podcast earlier about the 401k issue, right? Like, you cannot ever retire. I said, the truth is, even in 20 years, when you're 65 years old, if the market does better than the average, right? It actually does better than expected. You might have enough money to pay you $50,000 a year in today's dollars, $50,000 a year, not in real buying power, right? We got inflation to worry about too. I said, just in today's dollars, it's $50,000 a year. Not a lot, considering how much they're putting away. And I said, and in fact, if you factor in inflation, it's about 20,000 a year, right? Maybe less than that. And they're like, oh, that's not great. I'm like, no, it's not. I said, but here, do this. Stop funding your 401k. That, even after you pay taxes, gives you 10,000 a year. 2, we refinance your mortgage to a 30-year mortgage. By the way, I hope you guys are listening to this, because this is exactly the kind of stuff that I help clients through. By the way, if you're wondering, what does Chris do? On the consulting side, this is what we do. I said, if you refinance your mortgage here, we can actually lower your payment by $600 a month. Now there's equity trapped in this property, of course, because now you're trying to pay off aggressively. There's equity here. We cash out some more equity, get about 165,000. Even with the payment, you actually will still save $40 a month on your mortgage and have 165,000 you can invest. And we'll pay off one of your debts. They'll free up over $200 a month. And then the rest of it, the other 150,000 plus, we're going to use that to go and invest. And I showed them, I said, hey, here's 2 properties right here you buy right now. With less than $100,000, but it'll generate over $1,000 a month. And I said, what's your mortgage payment? They said $1,000 a month. I said, guess what? Between that and paying off this loan, you're going to have over $1,200 a month, and you still have 50 grand in cash that you can invest and do whatever you want with it. I'm like, that's if you don't do anything. Maybe just let it sit in savings. You would actually now have your mortgage paid for. That payment would now be fully paid for versus you trying to aggressively pay it off, which, by the way, the banks love, because if they ever foreclose on you, they love taking properties with equity, not with the ones that are leveraged. And so I said, voila, there you go. No money out of pocket, just using the same money you're using, but you can generate at least a net $20,000 a year. And here's the key thing, guys. I said, but the choice is up to you guys, because she's like, holy cow, like that doesn't even seem real. She's like, does anybody tell you that seems too good to be true? I'm like, I hear it often. And the reason it's too good to be true is because your brain has been shifted and only been looking at it from a certain path, looking at the Dave Ramsey method, right? Or you're looking at from a very, not even conservative approach, really a risky approach, because everything you're throwing your money into your house and you can't get to it, especially if something goes wrong in the markets, right? The banks can say, nope, you can't get to that money. So you're throwing it into a place like your house. You're throwing it away into your 401k that you can't access while you're working with that company. It's trapped. The government can change the rules on you whenever you want, and you have zero vote in the matter. Technically, you guys are doing the most aggressive, risky thing that's possible versus getting that money in your control and going and using that to invest, whether it's buy real estate into different types of funds or whatever it might be, and you can generate more cash flow. In fact, to the tune of at least $20,000 a year to tack on to that $10,000 a year you've been saving your 401k. Now you can put those together. You got $30,000 the next year. Guess what? $20,000 now becomes, about $23,000 a year or more, possibly. Actually, probably more. It's probably going to be closer to $24,000. Then the next year, that's going to be up to at least $28,000. Next year, now you're about $33,000 a year, and so on. I'm like, you're already creeping up to that $50,000 a year income that you're hoping to get in 20 years. But you might easily be able to do within 5 to 7 years. I'm like, and they're like, oh my gosh, that seems crazy. I'm like, it is. But here's the thing, guys. It's up to you. You have the control. You can decide whether you actually take advantage of it or not. You're not the victim here. You are the hero of your story, or you should be the hero of your story. It's fully up to you. And I told him, I said, honestly, I don't need your money. Like, I'm fine financially. Like, I don't need to work with anybody. But I was like, but to do this would be fun. Like, this would be fun to change your life, to actually do something. That's what makes it worthwhile for me, to create that ripple effect. Guys, like, and the ball's in their court. They can either keep being the victim and keep trudging along, right? Just keep working their tails off, making a good few $100,000 a year, hoping and praying that something will change. And hoping that maybe that 401k will build up if the market doesn't tank on them, which obviously it will at some point over those next 20 years. Or they can take advantage of their life now, have more life to live, have more years of their life that they can actually do something that's impactful now, that can actually impact their family and be able to create something much bigger than just themselves. Guys, that's the choice each of us have. Each of us choose every single day to be the hero or the victim of our story. Which one do you choose to be? By the way, if you ever watch a movie, right? Think about it with Halloween, right? Coming up here. Do you ever really remember the victims? Do you remember the screaming teenager that gets killed in the woods? No, you don't remember who that is, but you remember you might remember the murderer, right? You might remember Michael or Jason or Freddy, right? But you remember the hero. You remember the hero story. Remember the Forrest Gumps of the story, right? Remember those people. Remember the people that become the hero. Remember the Luke Skywalkers of the journey, right? We remember those people. We don't remember the stormtrooper that got shot. Nobody does, right? Nobody knows what happens to those characters when they become the victim. They become forgotten. You are not here to be forgotten. You are here to make a difference. This is much, much bigger than just making money, guys. This is about you choosing the life that you want, not believing all the dumb perspectives out there about being the victim to whatever circumstance or people or organizations that you see out there. You're not a victim of your masks, guys. You get to choose still. Even though you say you have a mandate on you, you still get to choose how you respond. You're not a victim to that. Yes, we get thrown curveballs all the time. That's welcome to life. Welcome to the freaking human club. But your life, your results are your own dang fault. And that is the good news. There is where the hope is, guys. It's not up to somebody else to give us our freedom. We have that choice to make within ourselves. Will you take it, or will you continue to be the victim? And purely the choice is up to you. What are you going to choose? Are you going to be the one that chickens out and becomes like everybody else? Or do you want to live an extraordinary life? Guys, if there's anything else you remember this, that you are the hero. Choose to be that hero, not the victim, not the whiner, not the crybabies of the world. You are here to make a difference and to create something impactful that creates a ripple effect and creates a legacy beyond you. Your family is watching, your friends and everybody else is watching to see what you choose. No matter what comes in play, you make the difference. And that is what's inspiring, guys. I hope you make it a wonderful and prosperous life and you make it a prosperous week. We'll see you later.